Hey everyone, how you doing today? This is Chad, your hillbilly handyman. Another video here. Look at all that smoke out there. Usually you can see a couple of mountain ranges over. Beautiful view. But today, here we are at the end of August 2020, and it's all socked in from all those fires down south. I hope everybody's safe. I'm sorry for anybody who's losing anything important, their homes, their loved ones. All you firefighters, do your thing. But it got me thinking, as you can see over here, I have been working on building my home for a very long time. In fact, that's the entire reason why I got into the construction industry. I decided when I was a little kid I wanted to build my own home up here. I didn't know how, so I had to get into construction to learn it. But with the fire on my mind, I've spoken to a lot of people around my area. We live out here in the woods. A lot of transplants, a lot of people coming up from the cities and back to the woods. People moving out to the country. They've had enough of the city, and I can't blame them. I've never known anything myself of living in the city. I know being in the city for more than a weekend is too much for me, but that's just me. But being up here, you got to understand that you are your own everything. Nobody else is responsible for you. You know, I don't understand where these people, adults, start thinking that somebody's going to be responsible for them. Somebody's going to come save the day if something bad happens. If you're in a good community and you're lucky, you have a volunteer fire department. But that's exactly what it is. It's a volunteer fire department. That's your neighbors who are donating their time to get as trained up, as close as they can to full-time firemen in order to come save your butt and anybody else's butt in an emergency. Those folks, they want to be of service in a terrible moment. And my hat's off to you. I've spent my time. I'm not a firefighter at the moment. I am currently on a leave of absence from my department. My grandfather started our department. My father was the chief for 16 years, and I've been active since I was 12 years old. I just took a little time to work on my house. I'll be going back before long. But all this smoke, my sunset video that I just put up, it's got me thinking about the fires. And I don't know if you folks realize that you need to have a fire standpipe at your house. This is 1.5 inches. This is the minimum that you'd want to have. I have a 2-inch pipe coming from way up there on the mountain from my water tanks down to the house. Runs all the way down through here, right? I have 1.5 inch standpipe off of that 2-inch pipe that comes up to a nice brass gate valve so that the fire department can hook in. Now ideally, I mean, by all rights, you should have at least 2,500 gallons or 3,000 gallons in a tank, standalone, that's not plumbed into your house. You should have that so that a fire truck can pull up anytime and there's always water there. That's ideal. Now, if we snap back to reality for a minute, not all of us have that kind of money to put out for another tank, or we can't be set up perfectly to start with, right? For example, if we were to be perfect, we would have this 2.5 inch from the tank to the fire truck to hook up. That'll fill a truck in minutes, quick as hell. And the driver of the truck, the engineer, he would freak out if he saw that, because that's really not seen anywhere except for in a business or in the cities. And if you got the money, by all means, be my guest. That would be ideal. We're talking ideal. Let's go to reality. Most of us don't have that kind of money. Most of us are making ends meet best we can. Like, I'm personally building my house out of pocket. I do not want to take a loan. I don't want anybody telling me how I have to build my home. I know how to build. I don't want anyone telling me what kind of timeline it'll take or what this or that I have to do. It's just ridiculous. I'm not willing. So I take a little bit out of every paycheck every week and I buy some things for my house. It's actually kind of frustrating how slow it's going, but it's all mine. Everything there is bought and paid for with sweat and labor, you know. Or I've made it. I made all the lumber to go into that house with my mill. Trees around here are pretty good. I've got my area fairly cleaned up. I could do a lot more. It needs to be brushed out a little better for me to feel safe. But then again, if a fire rips through here and takes my house, that's my fault. That's not anybody else's fault. That's my fault because I don't have this place pristine yet. Perfect. I don't know how to get it there in a quick hurry without going into debt. I'm not going into debt. So, for you folks who have come back to the land and come out of the cities and you're feeling good, you're out in the woods doing this thing, you got to realize you're on your own. This is part of it. I love this part of it. I love being responsible for myself. You're your own water company. You have to supply your own water tanks. You're your own septic company. You're your own fire crew. Because I'll tell you what, your neighbors who have joined the fire department, the volunteers, odds are that's not a staff department. Odds are you're lucky if when that department gets a call, when you call 911, if a guy is sitting around his house as close as he can be to the department with his boots and jeans on already, wearing cotton clothing, ready to go, if you're lucky, they might get there and make a difference. I know for myself, if I was sitting on my couch with my boots on, in jeans, cotton clothing, ready to rock if the bell went off, it was a 6-minute response to the department. Then I had to start the engines and get them warmed up, get my gear on, get out the door and respond. That's terrible. I don't know what kind of time it takes in the city. I believe that you have to have a department that can respond within 6 minutes from any location. You have departments on every other street block almost. Well, out here in the country, it's not that way. It's not that way. You have good people who live around you who are coming to your help, but it could take them a half an hour to get there or more, depending on how far out you are. So you got to be set up. So I wanted to show you the standpipe. I run a heck of a lot of water through there. Now, as most people have, I have PVC from my water tank to my house. So PVC melts. It's plastic. So you can't really take the risk of your house catching fire and your water line melting and draining your water tanks. You got to be able to shut that off if you want it to be able to defend your house. That's why this is all concrete. I've got the concrete standpipe with a galvanized, well, I've got a galvanized standpipe with a concrete surround with a concrete base. If a fire comes through here, that's not going to melt. It'd have to be a ripping fire, and it's not going to melt. My PVC is actually down there under the leaves. I got to get my my valve box put in. But I do have a valve right here. You can see the top of the valve right there. It's a 2-inch valve. And that goes to the house so that if there's a fire, I can run up here, shut that valve off. Now I've isolated the house. The house doesn't have any water because I will be hitting the house with my fire hose, which is in a nice, clear, labeled fire hose box right next to the standpipe, so that any truck that just randomly pulls up here, a fire crew from out of the area, that have never been here before, that I've never met, they're going to come rolling up my driveway right here, They're going to come rolling up here. They're going to see the fire coming to my house. They're going to see this standpipe. First thing they pull up to. They're going to see that there's, if I don't already have it running, if I'm not home or something. They're going to open the lid. And there you have it. You folks need to have fire hose. You got to have at least 100 feet of fire hose. If you're out in the country, figure it out. Get some. Anything that says fire or safety or emergency, when you're purchasing it, it's going to be ridiculously expensive. So you got to get a little bit at a time, or talk to your local department. Maybe they have some hoses that are out of service. Maybe they're damaged. Maybe they're just not up to snuff to be on the trucks. Maybe they want to sell those. That could be an income for the department. They could make some money to take care of their maintenance and such by getting rid of an old hose that still holds water, but it's just not up to snuff to be on the crew. Might work, might not. I'm not making any promises. But you see how I have this in here? I have my female right here. This comes from the bottom of the box. Comes all the way up from the bottom. It's all flaked in this way so that I can hook up my line to the valve. Once I have that hooked, I can grab my hose and just leave. You see how it just flakes out of there, right? No knots, no nothing. If you've ever seen a fireman grab a hose off the end of a truck and just run, this is the way they have it in there. There's a couple of different ways to flake your hose in here, but I wanted to show you that once you get down here, I have this little device on the line. This is a good thing to have if you're able, right? We have a foot in reality here. We're not all rich. We can't all just run out and buy all this expensive fire stuff, right? This is called a water thief. This is so that when you're done with the initial attack, you still have water. You can, let me get out. Sorry about the filming here, folks. I'm just learning how to do this. But once you get it all strung out, you're done fighting, you're in the mop-up stage. The fire's pretty much out. You're going to want to get a smaller hose and just go around and hit the little hot spots, right? Well, instead of taking out your 1.5 inches for the attack, you can get a 1 inch. There's my 1 inch hose. Here's my female ready to go, right? She's from the end. I've got about 200 feet of 1 inch in here. But the 1 inch will come over here and attach to the water thief here. This valve, while it's in storage, should always be closed. Make sure that it's closed. You don't want to open the main valve and have water spraying. You don't want to waste a drop of water until that fire's done. You want to make sure. So make sure when you're storing your hoses, your valve is closed, your fire nozzle is closed. If you have a plastic nozzle like this, you want to make sure that you don't over tighten it. Plastic fittings tend to get tight. Doesn't make any sense. You can be as careful as you can be, putting them on nice and gentle. You just want to bring it down snug so that it's not going to leak, because somehow they get to that extra little pop and they don't come off. So if it's your child who runs out here to grab this because you're in town, your kid's home alone, and all of a sudden there's a fire, and you've taught your kid the right things to do, you've given them drills. Look, this is the way this is. If a fire cracks off and you're the only one home, you got to grab the hose, right? This is the way it is. So if your child grabs that nozzle and he does everything right, you want to make sure that they can get that nozzle open once you have water. How frustrating would that be? Have 100 feet of 1.5 inch fire hose ready to go. You got a fire coming up the hill and you can't open the nozzle. So just be careful. Make sure that you don't over tighten this thing. Each one of these fittings will have a rubber gasket in it. This fire, this water thief, this valve, they tend to get sticky. So you want to maintenance them. And what I use is olive oil. You don't want to use anything crazy, you know. You don't want to use a real high chemical lubricant or anything like that. Just use some olive oil or whatever you have, vegetable oil, something so that these rubber gaskets stay moist, they don't dry out on you, and the valve will turn. Highly important. If you use olive oil, you know, you don't have to worry about a thing. I use my hoses. A lot of people don't. I think that's kind of silly myself, because if you never use your hose, if your fire hose has been sitting by the fire standpipe for 10 years and you're confident that you have a hose, are you confident that hose is going to hold water? No, you're not. You might think you are, but you're not. These things rot. They're cloth. Look, if you're not careful, if you don't store them properly, they're going to rot. If they see too much sunlight, if a mouse gets to them, anything, any of these problems will eat these things up. They do have a rubber inside. This cloth is on the outside. It's like a jacket, but they do spring leaks and they won't hold pressure. So personally, if I have to wash a car, if my kid's being a smart mouth and he needs to be hosed off, I grab my fire hose. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing more fun than hiding around a corner with a fire hose and blasting the crap out of your kid. Do it smart, don't injure the kid, but you know, it's good for a laugh. Talk about a water gun fight. Test your hoses. Once you get them wet, you got to dry them. Make sure you hang them up. I string mine between the trees. Take a rope and hang them up. Let them hang for a couple of days in the good sun. They'll be dry enough to store. Do not store wet hoses. So I kind of feel like I'm rambling here, folks. This is a 17-minute video. I don't know if I've covered everything that is important. I don't know if I've helped anybody or if I've just annoyed you with talking about nothing and looking around my place here. But however it may go, I'm going to fold these hoses back up. I'm going to put them away so the sun can't see them. And I hope that you all stay safe. And if that ripping fire comes up the hill towards your house, I hope that you have done a little bit of preparation. Did your brush clearing. You had some water set up. If you didn't do that, you're in trouble. There are some hand tools that you're going to want to have. A McLeod, for example. I didn't bring one of those up here to show you guys. I should have probably. But go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If I said anything wrong in this video, please let me know. I have been humbled in the past. I'm sure it's not the last time. I'm not always right about things. I think I'm okay with that. Help me learn the right way. If I said something wrong, leave me a comment. I hope you have a good day. Stay safe. Stay away from that COVID-19 crap. Stay away from the fires. And have a good one.